So we are studying the Nakshatra Sukta mantras. The Nakshatra Sukta mantras are actually a ritualistic set of mantras. These are used primarily in doing yajna and in homa. So you don't see most of these being simply chanted. So we use this in ritual whenever there is a yajna, homa, or you want to do a nakshatra shanti. So it is used in yajna, homa, ritual. And that's the reason why the nakshatra sukta is in the Brahmana section of the Veda. So just so you can recap, each one of the four Vedas, Ruk, Yajus, Sama, Atharva, each one of the four Vedas are divided into four parts. So we have the Samhita part. Samhita is a collection of all the various mantras. There need not be any great reason for many of the mantras to be used, even in the ritual. Not every Samhita mantra is used in the ritual also. But Samhita is the contemplation of the sages. So therefore, in all the four Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda, there are a collection of mantras and we call it as Samhita. And then this Samhita is usually used just to study the mantras. And of course, we'll study the meaning also. But then we also need to have a practical application. The practical application of these selected mantras are done by the various sages, and they call it as the Brahmana mantras. And again, all the four Vedas have the Brahmanas also. And then we also have contemplative sections as part of the Vedic structure, which is called the Aranyaka. It is where we actually do a meditation and then upasana, and after the meditation, we come to the contemplative part or the Jnana Kanda part, which is Upanishads. So there is study, there is practical application, and there is contemplative part, and also there is the philosophical part. So this is further divided into Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. Karma Kanda specially consists of Brahmanas. And in the Vedic corpus, Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, in the Yajurveda again we have two branches, the Shukla Yajurveda and the Krishna Yajurveda. And the Krishna Yajurveda has many other branches. Amongst them there is one branch called the Taittiriya branch. And the Taittiriya branch has Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and the Upanishad. So in the Taittiriya Brahmana portion, the beginning of the third section of the Taittiriya Brahmana, we come across the Nakshatra Sukta. And this Nakshatra Sukta is the one which we use to chant and also perform the yajna. It could be a puja or it could be a homa of the various nakshatras. So as I mentioned earlier, this is the part of the larger section of the collection of mantras which we are going to study and bring them all together. That is the Udaka Shanti mantras. In the Udaka Shanti mantras, we have studied the Navagraha Sukta, the Nakshatra Sukta, then we have also studied the Nasadiya Sukta. Several suktas we have studied separately, then soon we are going to put them all together. And Udaka Shanti also consists of two parts. That is the chanting part, where we invoke all the devatas into a kalasha in this procedure called Udaka Shanti. And there is also a yajna, puja, homa part. So the Nakshatra Sukta belongs to the yajna, puja, homa part of the Udaka Shanti mantras. And some time back I had mentioned that Udaka Shanti mantras are used in all auspicious occasions, sometimes in inauspicious occasions at the conclusion of the inauspicious times. For example, we do it in the wedding, in Graha Pravesha, in Upakarma, Upanayana. In a number of occasions we do Udaka Shanti mantras and Graha Pravesha especially. And also, when you think that the house needs a kind of a spiritual cleaning after certain events, you can also do the Udak Shanti and do the cleansing of the house. It can be also a public building. Many a times, public buildings are also cleansed. For example, the temples. So therefore, in the Udaka Shanti part, the Nakshatra Sukta comes, and this, each one of the Nakshatra Sukta, we have studied the Kartika Nakshatra, we will look at a little bit on the Rohini Nakshatra today. There are two parts of these, for each one of these nakshatras. So the first part is called Puronuvak, and the second part is called Vachyam. So Puronuvak, each one of these mantras has a Puronuvak or Puronuvakya. So the Puronuvakya refers to a type of hymn, and the type of hymn is established in a very important text by Apastamba Maharshi. It is called as Apastamba Yajna Paribhasha Sutras. Apastamba, sage Apastamba, and it is Yajna of the ritual, Paribhasha, technical terms, the technical jargon, Sutra. So these sutras create a technical jargon, and one of them is called Puronuvakya. In this Puronuvakya, the mantra is repeated many times if need be, and if you want to do a japa, either in one particular ritual, or it can also be used in different rituals. For example, if you are doing a overall nakshatra homa for all the nakshatras, then you may do the Puronuvakya only once. Suppose you are doing a particular nakshatra homa for a particular person to invoke the blessing and the benevolence, the Puronuvakya may be done several times. It may be 21 times, it may be 108 times, depending on what your sankalpa or what you want to do. And therefore, these vakyas or Puronuvakya mantras are repeated. And these vakyas always precede offering of the havis. Since before actually pouring the oblation into the Agni, this part of the mantra is chanted. It is called Puronuvakya. Pura means before, Anuvaka is paragraph, that which is a paragraph which is chanted before actually pouring the oblation into the Agni. And therefore, this Puronuvakya mantras also have to be known. So in the Rohini Nakshatra study, the Puronuvakya mantras are Prajapate Rohini Vetu Patni Vishwarupa Bruhati Chitrabhanuhu Sano Yajnasya Suvite Dadhatu Yatha Jivema Sharadasa Virah. Up to that is the Puronuvakya mantra for the Rohini Nakshatra. So let's look at the meaning. Prajapatehe Patni. So this Rohini is the wife of Prajapati. And this, please note that Prajapati is the Devata or the Lord who is the creator. And it also means Prajanam Patihi, the Lord of all the living beings. So who is a Praja? Praja means Prakarshena Jataha, that means perfectly created living beings. So perfectly created living beings, Lord and the creator is Prajapati. So in the Puranas we identify Prajapati as Chaturmukha Brahma, but in the Vedic context he is recognized as Prajapati. And Rohini, interestingly, is the wife of Prajapati. But in Purana we take Rohini as the most endearing wife of Chandra. So there is a little bit of a difference in the context of Rohini. Here in this mantra, very clearly it is there, Prajapatehe Patni Rohini. So she is Prajapati's Patni, and this Prajapati Patni Vetu. Vetu is the verb here. So that's why we must catch the verb to understand the meaning of the mantra. So Vetu means, may she accept our oblations. So how is this Rohini? What is her form? Because we also have to fix the form of Rohini Devi in our. She is Vishwarupa. Vishwarupa means she is multi-formed, and each one of the form is very beautiful. In other words, whenever you see something beautiful and grand manifestation in the creation, and that is Rohini, because she is Vishwarupa.
No wonder Krishna is born in Rohini.
So where are you going to search for this Devata? She is everywhere. In a beautiful flower in your garden, she is there. In raindrops, she is there. Right? In the beauty of a child, she is there. That means Vishwarupa Anusandhana is indicated here, so that you can contemplate and meditate on the universal beauty of this Rohini. And again, it is interesting that it is in feminine gender, because usually the feminine gender and the woman is considered as the picture of beauty. And that beauty is explained here by saying, you are multi-formed Vishwarupa. All that is be grand and beautiful is your manifestation. Probably our ancients used to name our daughters as Rohini. They must have known the meaning of this mantra, and then they must have given the name Rohini to mean that she is very beautiful, crystallized in our home. So not only she is in such beauty, but she is also Brihati Vyapini. Brihati Vyapini means pervading everywhere. Brihati in a grand manner, Vyapini pervading everywhere, and therefore beauty is not localized in Ishvara's creation. So what is the subtext here? There is nothing that is ugly in the world. That is how we must train our minds. Because suppose we say this is ugly, this is beautiful, we are creating duality. So everything in Ishvara's creation is beautiful. That is the Anusandhana here. How to identify her presence? Chitrabhanuhu. Chitrabhanuhu means Ascharya Deeptihi, Vichitra Deeptihi. That means she is actually extraordinarily mesmerizing luster. Probably this is why the Rohini association with Chandra is associated with a mesmerizing luster of the moon. But anyway, here, Sa Rohini, that Rohini Devi, that Nakshatra Devata, Vetu, accept our oblations. So what is the essence here? Prajapati Rohini, who is Patni of Prajapati, she who is Vishwarupa, who is Brihati, Vyapini, Chitrabhanuhu, Vetu. Let her accept our oblations. So to accept our oblations, we have to have a reason. Why are we invoking her? For that, Yajnasya Suvite Dadhatu. Yajnasya, of the yajna or the worship I am performing. Suvite means the outcome of merit or punya phala. The punya phala of the yajna. Yajnasya Suvite, punya phala of the yajna, dadhatu. Please make sure that you pronounce it dadhatu and not dadhatu, as I mentioned earlier, because dadhatu means in such a way that this punya stays with me forever. It is not.
Pronounce it again. It should be pronounced as how?
Dadhatu. Dadhatu means give, and it will, after you spend, it is gone.
So it shouldn't be the third da, but the
Yeah,
fourth da.
Dadhatu. Yeah. Then, so this punya phala must be remain with for a long time. How do you know that the punya phala for me is surviving for a long time? There he says, Saviraha. Saviraha means my children, my grandchildren are very powerful, very lustrous. They are achieving high achievers, and they are living 100 years. And I am living with them for 100 years of my life. And throughout my life, I see that they are happy, healthy, prosperous. So when you see your children, your grandchildren, and yourself happy, healthy, and prosperous, and wealthy, of course, when all these things are there, then that means you are experiencing a extraordinary punya phala. And that punya phala, who can give? Only one who is of extraordinary punya. That extraordinary punya is Prajapati. And what is Prajapati's punya? Prajapati's punya is having Rohini as his wife. Isn't it? So therefore, Saviraha and then Sharadaha Yatha, just as throughout the creation, starting from the beginning of the creation to the end of the creation, Prajapati and Rohini are together. And both of them are together in the most lustrous form, in manifesting themselves as beautiful everywhere. And they will live for the whole duration of this creation, isn't it? So whatever you are enjoying, your punya phala, please let that also accrue to me. And then let that come to me. And Sharadaha Yatha, for that 100 autumns give me also that strength. And I must be able to also see the benefits of my punya phala. And therefore, Jivema. Sharadaha Jivema. In fact, I have all the time said that we must always pray for living for 100 years. Never say, I am tired with this life, I don't want to live. No matter what happens, no matter what difficulty you are going through. Again and again, Veda says the same thing. Sharada Saviraha Jivema. So not only we should get punya and live long in strength and happiness, we also ask that we also live equally well in strength and happiness with our children and grandchildren. So this is the Purana Vak. This is why I am invoking you, Hey Devi Rohini. And this style is called the invitatory hymn. In English, we call Purana Vakya, we can translate as invitatory. This invitatory hymn, and the next part of the Rohini mantra is Yajya, that is that which is used in actual offering of the oblation. So the structure of the worship of each one of these nakshatra mantras are, there is the Purana Vakya, invitatory of the Devata we invoke, and there is the Yajya mantra, offering of the oblations. We see this in all religious traditions. One of the most beautiful part of the Christian worship tradition is found in the Psalms. So in the Psalms, we see there is an invitatory part, and then there is also a part where we ask for the benefit of that invitation. I'll give you just a sample. If you go to Psalm number 91, there is a beautiful saying that where he says, "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty." Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. This is also known in our tradition as Mahadashraya. Mahadashraya means if you are in the proximity of the greatest, that greatness will accrue to you also. Therefore, the Niti Shastra says, don't be in the company of bad people. It's called it's called Hina Manavashrayam Tyajami. There is a beautiful composition by Swami Nakshatra in which she says, Hiranmayim Lakshmim, and then goes on saying, Hina Manavashrayam Tyajami. It was one of the most favorite compositions of Usha. Hina Manavashrayam Tyajami. I will give up the company of evil people. So we have to give up the company of evil people to be in the presence of Rohini. So when she comes, we dwell, as Psalm 91 says, in the shelter of the Most High. How high can you go in the hierarchy of Devatas? Prajapati. And Prajapati's consort is Rohini. And therefore we are in the shadow of the Most High Prajapati Rohini. Then we will be in the shadow of the Almighty. In the shadow of the Almighty means what? Whatever is the glory and the beauty of the Almighty will come to us also. If Prajapati's life span is beginning of creation to end of creation, my lifespan is 100 years. So for the entire 100 years of my life, let me be like that. Then the Lord will reply in Psalm number 95. Because when you make a prayer, the reply also should come. In this reply he says, with long life, I will satisfy him who worships and show him my salvation. What a beautiful, beautiful, as powerful as a Veda mantra. So you will see the Purana Vakya is in Psalm number 91. The Yajya is in Psalm number 95. You can see how when a sage sits in meditation, this is how things reveal to him. I'm giving you as a parallel to show that this structure of Purana Vakya and Yajya is the human spirit trying to establish a commune with the divine. So we will see the Yajya portion in our next class.